And if anybody has questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or let me know. So just a little bit of background on our team. Stacy, our team leader, started in real estate in 2001, back when I was still in high school. But that's not as much of the flex as I realized when somebody on our team is actually was born in 2001. So I feel old and young at the same time. But when she started, it was just her and one other agent. And eventually she had an assistant, but there was really no structure. I joined Stacy's team in 2013. And it was a very kind of fly by the seat of your pants, just everybody scrambling all day long to kind of get the deals done. There was no kind of overarching business model or any kind of real systems in place. So over the last 10 years, we've really kind of switched our mentality. Now in 2023, we have 8 people on our team. We have 2 kind of part-time agents, semi-retired. We have full-time agents. We have me, and we have our director of marketing. So we have a much larger network and structure. And one of the big things that we started to do was really think of the team as running a business rather than just this kind of like scrappy band of people trying to get a contract signed or get an apartment, photographed. So now 10 years later, we have a robust amount of systems, and I'll go through everything that we have. And it's just led to everything being so much more efficient. Like even this morning, I'm based in Denver now, but the team is based in New York. So within like an hour of this morning, I was able to get a property launched. We did, I sent it to our marketing team. It's up on StreetEasy, Zillow. So just following all the systems that we have, it saves me so much time and energy. So one of the things I think that was really big for us, and I know some teams are in the earlier stages of kind of getting all these systems in place, but basically last year we did 2 days of almost like a summit for the team. Because one thing we learned is that Stacy and I, my team lead, we had the way we worked, and we finished each other's sentences, and she's like, "Do you remember that deal?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that deal from 2 years ago." It was very easy for us to communicate, but the rest of the team, they weren't always aware of how Stacy and I worked, and then there was kind of like a disconnect. So I think it was last year, we sat in the room, in the conference room, and just went through the way the team operates, like a training guide. And it took us 2 days, and everybody had the initiative to voice their opinions and kind of explain how they work so that we could create one document, and I'm happy to share it. So we have one kind of uniform way of working. So everybody knows what their responsibilities are. Everybody knows what my responsibilities are. Everybody knows the team calendars, links. I do most of the admin work for the team, but it's always good for them to know how the sausage gets made in a way. So I'll open it up. And this has also been really helpful for us, because when we do have people that join the team, or we recruit new agents, we don't have to, as we like to say, reinvent the wheel. We don't have to come up with a training guide every time, and so now our onboarding process is much smoother. So this is our training guide. It has all of the compass links, our resources for the team, calendar, just a general structure. We have team meetings once a week. And let's see. So what we did basically throughout these 2 days was having like a checklist for everybody on the team. So when you get a buyer and it's the first time you're taking them out, you know exactly what to do step by step. Now, luckily for the team at this point, they're all pretty well versed in this process, so they don't really need to look at the checklist as much, but it is good to have, especially for new people, so that they understand kind of how we operate. We really want to make sure that we're delivering customer service really well and that anybody on the team represents the team well. So we've got spreadsheets. I mean, I do basically all the stuff on the back end. But even things that we didn't used to do at all before it was even possible was tags, groups. I mean, if Stacy says, let's email this property or whatever to all of our contacts in the tri-state area, which for us is New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. I can go in, we have all the agents tagged tri-state area. We can send out a marketing e-blast, you know, in like 10 minutes with Compass's tools. Or let's see, we have a lot of different tags, moms and dads, or, you know, parents. So when it's back to school time, we can send out like a little e-blast to people as long as they're tagged, you know, holiday card, Jewish holidays, you know, are big in the city. So we send out e-blasts for that. Setting up tours, and I know this is different in New York, it's very complicated, and I know out in other markets it's a lot easier, but we do have templates for how we create buyer tours. It's a little different now post-COVID, but putting in an offer, we have all these documents. So nobody has to create anything. Nobody has to like figure out how to submit an offer. Where's the offer form? What do we do when we're in contract? We have it all laid out, and you can see most of the stuff is for me to do, which I use my calendar, and I use a lot of other tools to keep everything organized. In New York, we have a board approval process, which is complicated and silly. When I have a friend, I'm based in Colorado now, and he told me, oh, my offer was accepted when he was buying a house. And I was like, okay, well, how many months until you get to close? And he's like, no, the closing, they give me the keys like on Friday. And I was like, oh, okay. In New York, you make an offer in 3 months, hopefully you'll get the keys. So it's a little different. But so even the closing, we have a system for that. And then post-closing, making sure we send gifts and track the anniversaries. We have a whole post-close action plan, which I can share. So that took us about 2 days, and it was really important, I think, because everybody had a hand in it. It wasn't me or Stacy saying, this is how the team operates. We wanted to be inclusive and have everybody share their opinions, and now everybody works very well together. For me, as the director of operations, I have a checklist when we go live with a new property, and I know that's very small, so I can share that as well. Stacy usually says like, it's too small, I can't read it, because she's a different age group. But basically for me, we kind of, and we have this system for every time we get a new exclusive listing, when we list an apartment to sell, we have this same checklist. And it's the kind of a living, breathing document. We've added things, we've taken things away. It does change, over time, but for the most part, most of these items are the things that we have to do every single time, between getting the photographer, finding the floor plan, or creating one, ordering one. We send questionnaires to both our sellers and the management companies, because again, like in New York, we need to know, can you add a washer and dryer? 99% of the time the answer is no, but we need to have those answers in writing. Do they allow pets? Kind of all these questions. So for myself, I have this checklist, and like a few hours ago, I was using this because we just listed a new apartment, and pretty much within an hour, everything was done. It was when I keep everything organized and I can just check it off and it shows up green when you've done it. It's pretty much, the things that used to take me hours and I'd have to try to remember, did I do that? Did I not do that? Did I send an e-blast? Did I send the owners the links to their property? Now I never have to worry about that. And especially in our market, an offering plan and the building's kind of financial reports are the two, I would say, two of the most important documents, because when we get an accepted offer, it's our responsibility for sharing those documents with the other attorney. And you would be shocked how many other agents in New York are, everybody's supposed to have those documents. And sometimes I'll ask somebody if they have it, and they say no. And they say, oh, we'll just get it when we get an offer. And I'm like, but then you need it. It's better to get it in advance and be ready, so that if we get an offer on this apartment that we listed 2 hours ago, I can send them a link with everything they need. So all I do is basically duplicate this entire list every time we get a new apartment, and just go from there. So everything is much, much quicker. We also created a team Google Drive that, I will be honest, nobody knows how to use, which is fine. I do. And when people ask me for something, they should know where it is, but I'm sure all the other director of ops people will understand. It's much easier to ask somebody for a document than it is to search for it on your own. So we do have a team Google Drive, but people don't really use it as much as they could, but that's fine. Another thing that we did, part of our kind of team summit, was create all of our emails in templates. Stacy, our team leader, she primarily uses the Compass system, templates, and then I can share these as well. So all of her emails are saved in Compass's system. So when we get an accepted offer, she goes in, boom, it's the same email. Contract signed, board package submitted. These emails that from the outside look very impressive. They're multiple paragraphs, they've got PDFs, they've got bullet points, everything looks so great. And the fact is, it takes us about 30 seconds to schedule that. Personally, for me, I just put everything in a Google document, and I can share all my templates. But basically, I have a template for, let's see. So we do a thing called Friday feedback, which is my way of reaching out to every seller that we have every Friday with the insight report from Compass. I also let them know if we're doing an open house that weekend. We create landing pages for every listing on our team website. So I'll give them the traffic for that. The reality is, almost none of our sellers ever respond to the email or have follow-up questions, but we think it's good, especially in our market in New York, where things are a little bit slower right now, that they're constantly hearing from us. Even if we don't have good news or any news, at least they know we haven't forgotten about them. Same thing for a price reduction. Here's basically everything we do when we get a price reduction. We've also found that properties in our market are sitting on the market longer. So we have a 6-week like secondary marketing blitz, and we send that to them as well. So they know, okay, it's been on the market for 6 weeks. You know, a lot of times they think we do this big push in the beginning and then it just sits. So we reach out to them after 6 weeks and say, we're doing a whole nother marketing campaign. Even something simple as like an in contract. One seller gave us feedback that basically they heard from us regularly, you know, every week or so. And then we got into contract. And then at that point, for the seller, there isn't as much for them to do. And there's really not even that much for us to do. The buyer's agent is doing the board package. We're waiting on the board. It's very frustrating, but there's usually a month in our market from the time we submit a board package to whenever to when we hear back. So there's really, it's a lot of radio silence. And the sellers are like, we don't know what's going on. So we've gotten into the habit of just saying, no news, but we're checking in. And then they just feel like they're not forgotten. Another really important email, and we've gotten burned so many times, and that's why this is another kind of living, breathing document, is that we send a questionnaire to every seller when we go live with their apartment to make sure that if they have a mortgage, you know, or if they don't have a mortgage, if they have their original stock certificate, if they did any work in the apartment, if they combined 2 apartments, which actually happened to us last week. We basically found out that these very sophisticated, wealthy clients have been living in their apartment for, I think, 12 or 13 years now. And they never legally combined the 2 apartments. So that was something that was now where we had to go back and scramble and figure out how to get it all done. And luckily it all worked out. But now we have another property coming up, and we sent them the same checklist, and we reached out to an attorney to make sure everything was approved. We also like to, make sure that we know what's included with the sale, what's excluded, because the last thing that we want is to, you know, have an accepted offer, everything's ready, and then the sellers say, oh, we want to take this chandelier, and the buyers say, no, we saw the apartment with the chandelier has to stay. The sellers say, well, it was my grandmother's, blah, blah, blah. So we're we like to get everything up front. And then the second part, basically after Stacy had probably, I think she would describe it as one of her worst walkthroughs ever, where basically they were doing the walkthrough right before the closing, and literally nothing worked. The burners didn't work, the dishwasher didn't work, you know, there was like, she said it was like a disaster. So now when we go live, we send this very detailed, and I tell sellers, I understand it's very nuanced, it's very tedious to answer literally all these questions, but it's very, very helpful, because if any of these things do not work when we're, you know, about to close, that could cost, you know, you could have to leave money in escrow, you could have to give the buyers a credit. So I send this questionnaire. Does the dishwasher work? Is there a wine fridge? If it is, does it work? Any leaks? We've had some people, I think it was one deal we had where there was like old water damage, but it was covered by a rug. in the living room. So obviously the rug was there. We never saw it. And then once they moved out, there's like this big moldy black circle in the middle of the living room. And they're like, okay, we'll see that. That's going to be a problem. So now the sellers send us this thing. We look through it, we review it. If there are any issues, leaks, old leaks, anything that doesn't work, then the agents on the team can be upfront about that and say, okay, just FYI, the fridge is not connected to the water line or something. So the ice machine doesn't work. So at least if we can be proactive and be upfront about all these issues, then it becomes easier to handle when we get a deal. I also send an email to our sellers with the links when we go live. I sent this one about an hour ago. It shows them all the marketing we do, PR. We always try to get things posted on Leonard's contemplations in the morning, show sheets, websites. And that's just a good way that they see, okay, wow, like my apartment's on the market now, and I know everything they're doing. We're going to make a big splash. We've also started explicitly saying when their exclusive agreement ends. We always create the agreement as 6 months from the date the listing goes live, not the date that they sign, just because we've had, delays with staging, photography. We don't want that to eat into our time to sell the apartment. Let's see. My favorite thing to do is send managing agents questionnaires because they literally never answer anything. But we do have a standard questionnaire that I send to everybody. This is the full list, and I can share these. The reality is I try to pare this list down because management companies don't like to answer questions. Sometimes they'll say, we'll answer 3 questions for free. After that, you have to pay for them, which doesn't make any sense to me because we want to make sure we're bringing qualified people to the building. So we need to know what purchase structures they allow. But this is what I send to management companies. If we reduce our commission, we have a very standard email about that. And then when we accept an offer, I also send that Friday email because a lot of times sellers will think, well, now that we have an offer, we're done. And in our market, basically an accepted offer is not binding. So even if we accept an offer, we could usually continue to show. Anyway. And we have some buildings are specific. So I think it's really important to have the systems in place. And I think but like teams that are in the process of building the systems are in such a better place because when we were at our previous firm, and we've been at Compass now for 9 years, so we were there very early on when the tools weren't as developed as they are now. So I think now ops people have the ability to really create the systems that they need, and we have the tools to do it. So I'm happy to share my templates, my training guide, the screenshot of what we do on Mondays. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer those as well.
Rob, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Hi, it's Julie Burke from Greenwich. How are you?
Good, how are you?
We're here. Hi, yay.
Okay,
so we're a newly formed unit here, and so I think we have the benefit of not having to reorganize. We haven't organized in the first place, And I have a question about that basically was like one long operations manual, right?
Yep.
Look at it, okay. And the email template, like for example, the one on the Friday feedback insights or whatever. Do you keep that in like a Word document and or a Google Doc and literally just copy and paste it into the Compass platform in the first email that goes out?
I don't personally. I have found it easier for me just to use it, just to use Gmail, because I don't always have every client in my personal CRM. Everything's usually done through our team leads CRM, but the emails come from me. So the first Friday feedback email it's kind of a standard, like if we go live on a Thursday, it's like that is the same for everybody. So I will go and copy and paste that directly into the email and send it.
That goes from your personal email the first Friday, and then the subsequent ones are just auto-generated from Insights.
So that's an interesting, it's a good question. We had been doing them, we had been scheduling them every Friday. Right. And we had run into this issue that I was scheduling all these emails for Friday, but they were coming to me and Stacy was getting a copy randomly throughout the week. And I think I spoke with Agent Experience about it, and it is kind of like a known bug. The emails may have been going to the sellers on Friday, but we couldn't, it was a little tricky.
Okay.
So basically what I do is I make a list, or I have a list of all of our properties and I just email them directly on Friday. So I download the Insights report myself and just attach it.
Write that down. Okay.
It's not, I mean, at first I was really annoyed because then it's like, I think we have like 20 active listings that it was me 20 additional things I was going to have to do. But I think it takes me about 45 minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I see the question, what system do you guys use to track your transactions? So we do use Business Tracker, obviously for all of our transactions. We also have, Stacy has been keeping a client, like an income spreadsheet since she started back in real estate. So we also keep track of that. And that basically, let's see if I can, without giving too much away, it's basically her spreadsheet with the date, the property, I mean, just not giving too much away, but basically like, so she knows the commission, what her commission is, what the split is. So we keep it in two places. We keep it in Business Tracker, and we also have a separate spreadsheet. For a while, we were using Sisu as another way of tracking it, but we kind of found that we didn't need to be doing everything everywhere all at once. We didn't need to be tracking it in a million different places. So basically just Business Tracker and then our personal spreadsheet.
So Rob, what do you use outside of not on the Compass platform? You use Monday. Does the whole team, or is that just a you thing?
That's just a me thing. Originally, we set it up as everybody can log into this, but I think ops people will see that agents don't really, they don't need to know, or they don't care to know how things are done as long as they are getting done. So this is mymondays.com. This 400 East 77th Street was the apartment we listed this morning. So even, this was a couple hours ago, I did everything. And these are all kind of like after the closing we do. So the team has access, but they don't really look at it. It's more for me to make sure that I'm organized. And it's worked. I mean, this has been super, super helpful for me.
I have a follow-up question about Business Tracker.
Sure.
So did you create your own task checklists? And so that, like, it's
Yes.
difficult for us to, I'm with the Betty Batty Hello Home team in Annapolis, Maryland. And for us, everything is based from the ratification date, contingencies and everything. And ratification date is not a date that's in Business Tracker. So we have run up, I mean, we're trying to work with the system, but we're ending up having a spreadsheet because, so, I mean, I see you do it, I see you're doing it both ways, but do you have any advice? I mean, how are you using Business Tracker that it's successfully giving you your, what you have to do on a daily basis for each contract?
So basically we do have Stacy created a checklist tasks assignment in Business Tracker. Those are more so as reminders for me. I mean, I will say we don't use those tasks that often. For us, when we have a buyer, I'm just trying to think about it. There's almost like a natural flow to everything where everything kind of, for our market, we don't really need the checklist for a buyer as much because, we show apartments, the team lead will send an offer form. So everything kind of unfolds naturally. And once you have other parties, attorneys, management companies involved, they ask for things and then we send them. So it's not like, oh, I forgot to submit the offer or I forgot to do the board package. Those are very essential, big chunks of what we do. But we do use the tasks, but not as much. I think sometimes Mondays or a spreadsheet. I mean, I'll show you our spreadsheet as well. This is what I like to call the matrix because somebody else called it that first, and then I decided to take it. And basically, this spreadsheet has all of our kind of other, my team lead says she uses this all the time because it has all of our properties, which things have accepted offers, what is coming soon, what is in contracts. So this is a good way for us to kind of see all of our deals at once. And I'm happy to share this as well. We also have it for buyers, what they're buying. And then down at the bottom, we have all these other tabs. Marketing. I don't know if anybody else has had this problem, but NAC is not the best system for tracking marketing expenses. So we created a brand new way of tracking our expenses. So we track all of these things. We track all of our pitches, like when we pitch something, and then we make sure we add the clients to our weekly newsletter, group them appropriately. We track all of our referrals. We track gifts. I'm not as good with because the team lead sends the gift after a closing, and then we try and organize who we sent a gift to. We're not as great with that. And for a while, we've done it.
Rob,
Yeah.
sorry, forgive me for interrupting. So what you were saying, because I agree, I think NAC blows and it's impossible to sort. So
Yeah.
are you keeping your own spreadsheet of expenses so that you can do just that? Like, this is what 100 Smith Street cost us altogether?
Yes. So last year, we basically had two kind of systems. We had a listing cost tab, let's see, where I could see. Yes. So basically like 1050 Park Avenue. We spent 100 on an ad, a spotlight, which doesn't work, doesn't do anything. Feature, which doesn't really do anything either.
Okay.
So we were doing this basically as a way of tracking how much we were spending per listing. And
But
then we
that's
were also,
just your marketing spend. That's not staging and all the other stuff you do. Or if you did that, it would be in here.
usually it would be in here. Our photographer has like a 1 month lag, like everything she photographs in March, we'll get a bill for in April. So there's always a little bit of a lag.
Right.
So we would track all of our marketing expenses, but then we were also finding you have non-listing related expenses, such as building mailers, postcards. We were doing taxi ads for a while. We were doing videos.
If you have a website, whatever. Right.
Yeah, so we realized that basically we had two systems, and it didn't work. NAC was not updated, and we went over a lot, and we basically only found out that we went over because we were submitting anything that we would use her credit card for, we would put in for reimbursement, street easy features, things like that. And we only found out that we went over when Stacy's accountant was doing her taxes and was like, you have X amount of money that you should have been reimbursed that you weren't. So basically now what we do, every time we do something, listing, whether it's a direct bill, like a photographer, floor plan, anything like that, where they bill Compass directly, we put that in the spreadsheet. And then we also do that for anything that I use her credit card for. And then I also keep NAC open. And so usually like once a week or twice a week, I'll go through NAC and compare the charges that are in NAC versus what we have on the spreadsheet, to make sure that we kind of know where we stand. And it's, I mean, yes, NAC is a disaster. I mean, some of these things that are on this is our first quarter spend, we're back in November. So, I mean, the reality is it's a horrible system. Sorry, guys. It's a bad system. So we do have to have two different spreadsheets to really kind of keep track. And then Stacy's really good with spreadsheets and formulas. So she was able to add like what our actual charges are versus what should not be included. And I mean, the reality is we're probably still over a little bit. And if there's some things that Stacy has to pay out of pocket, that's fine. But at least now we know a little bit easier where we stand, how much we have, and how much we're going to go over, which we'll always go over, but it's fine. And I'm happy to share these.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Trying to think. And then just for email, for me personally, nobody else on the team, I believe, has any kind of organization system for their emails. And I go into Stacey's email and she's got 8,000 unread emails. Most of them are from within the last 4 or 5 years, which she's never going to read them. But I basically organize my emails, everything that is an active property. So once I see an email, I can say, okay, great. And I file it away. One thing that we've struggled with, and I'm sure a lot of people do, is when we get a price reduction or if we change something up and we want to email everybody that's seen a property. For our market, there's really no way to do it. But luckily for me, I can go back and I save every single email about the property. So if I needed to email every single person that had seen this apartment, I can go through my emails and copy the email address. Again, that's not the most sophisticated or the most like organized way of doing it, but it works. So sometimes, you know, we give a lot of feedback to Compass, and usually they're really receptive and they try and work on it, but sometimes it's a bigger fix. So sometimes you just kind of like make it work. And the funny thing is, like, I saw Jamie's comment. Sometimes Stacey would be like, oh, do you remember we sold that apartment 2 years ago? I can't find the deal sheet. I can find anything within like 5 minutes usually of searching for things. So, and sometimes she'll call me and she'll be like, she always starts the conversation by, you love these types of calls where it's like, I need to find out who the attorney was on this deal that we did 3 years ago on the Upper West Side, blah, blah, blah. And that's like, usually I can find things pretty simple. But again, like these.
Rob, will you be offering field trips or observation sessions where like we can all just watch you for a day or two? If we're
I love it. Yeah, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I've been remote for the last 2 years, which has been like another
support team
kind of tricky thing to navigate as well. But
reach us, they can email us at support@rentspree.com.
on the deal list, why don't you put the attorneys on the deal list? Do you mean the on like our just on that spreadsheet?
Yeah, on one of the transaction lists.
Let's see. So the way we kind of do it, when we send out a deal sheet, when we have an accepted offer, we have to put a sheet together that has all the attorney information. And I think it just hasn't been necessary. We have a few attorneys that we recommend to our clients. So I would say for the most part, a lot of these deals that have accepted offers are all being represented by the same person.
Okay, I just thought, yeah, that it'd be easy to find them at the end of the day to, you know, either email them and say, hey, do you have anything coming down I can help you out with? So,
and we do, like when Stacey has a template, and I'm happy to share that. When we get an accepted offer for a seller, in part of that template, she has the contact information for like the 2 or 3 attorneys that she recommends.
Okay. I was really just making a suggestion because you have so many spreadsheets
I know.
that maybe there's a sheet you can throw one more column in and get the buyer and seller attorney in there.
That would be a good idea. Yeah, I like that.
You know, so it was just a suggestion.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. That was awesome. This is Jamie, but I'm not on camera because I'm not presentable today.
No problem.
I'm hopping off. So thanks all. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
So I'll put my email in the chat.
for our transient agreement,
And if anybody wants to see things, I can take Stacey's spreadsheet. I'll kind of delete all the specific numbers and deal stuff. But I'm happy to share those. It's taken a long time to get all these systems working. So I definitely don't want people to think that are new or they're just starting the team that it's like they're behind or anything, because it's easier when you have these kind of tools that you can just steal from other people, because that's what Stacey does. She goes to Chirag's events or she does those Compass retreats and she comes back with a notebook full of things that we need to be doing. And she always comes back. And even 10 years later, with all the stuff that we do have, she's like, we're not doing anything. We're doing everything wrong. We don't have any systems. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. I think we're in a good spot. And she's like, oh, but these agents in other markets are doing other things. And it's like, you can't do everything. But yeah, like success is never final. We're always changing things up and trying new things. So reach out if you want, and I'm happy to share out any of these, anything that would help.
So are you going to put your email in the chat, and that's how we best reach out to you to get examples?
Yeah, I added it, but it's basically it's my initials, RD as in David, G at compass.com. And I'm happy to share everything.
Okay, awesome. This was really, really good. I appreciate you sharing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Stacy was like, "Are you nervous? Are you prepared?" I was like, "It's what we do. It's what we do all day, every day." So it's like I feel pretty confident talking about what works and what doesn't work. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'm happy to share.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
My pleasure. Right. And I'm sure everybody is ready to get back to work. I'm sure everybody's inboxes have been filling up in the last 45 minutes. So I'm happy to stay on, but feel free to log off and let me know if you have any questions.